Monday, April 29th, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about how the US government has been manipulating the price of gold for 150 years. And I'll touch upon the Black Friday events in 1869. I'll look at it through this book, War and Gold, that talks about that event in 1869 and how gold is really the enemy of the state, especially gold in the public's hand. The state needs to control gold in order to remain strong. And the other thing that the state needs to increase its power and its reach, and as a result decrease people's liberty, the individual's liberty and freedoms, is war, right? Before that, of course, I'll quickly look at what the markets are doing this morning. So this week, the main event will be, well, early in the week at least, we've got the FOMC meeting starting tomorrow and ending on Wednesday. I personally don't think there's any expectation, or I don't have any expectation that they'll do anything with rates. It's 7:25 a.m. London time. We've got spot gold at 1284.60. That's down $1.36 or 0.1%. Let's quickly look at the gold chart here before I go further. This is the weekly chart, and actually I don't think it looks that bad. We're still within that falling wedge. The key levels for me will be 1293, which was the high a couple weeks ago, and then actually 1300, which is just above the line there, the top of the wedge, the falling wedge. On the downside, I guess support would be at 1275. Silver's down 5 cents at 1503, or 1/3%. Range has been 1512 to 1502. The high so far for the day in gold has been just below 1290. Stock market, the Dow is up 20 points, 26,555. S&P and NASDAQ are actually virtually unchanged. Technical picture for those, the Dow hasn't really breached the all-time highs. S&P is very near the all-time highs, right on the line there if you look back to last year. NASDAQ, of course, has broken through, and some other indices like the transports and the Russell are still far away from the highs, so we'll need to keep an eye on the stock markets. Currencies, the pound is up 0.14%, 129.33. Euro as well, up about 0.15%, 111.60. Dollar is up marginally, only 5 pips against the yen, 111.62. Dollar is down slightly against the Chinese yuan, 673.29. Crude oil. Crude oil had a big down day on Friday. I think President Trump tweeted something about talking to OPEC. He's a free market guy, right? It's funny, hypocritical how, we talk about free markets, like how the Republicans are free market, Democrats are socialists. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a socialist, but they all interfere in everything, even the Republicans, i.e. Trump. So right now, crude has dropped quite a bit. We made a high above 66 last week. Now it's at 62.87. It's down 50 cents this morning, or 0.75%. Brent, the same thing. It's down 54 cents or 3/4 this morning at 71.12. So it's like the little, how can I say, the Dutch boy trying to keep the dike from breaking down, putting his fingers in the holes of the dike. That's what the financial markets are now. You've got the president tweeting about OPEC. You've got the Fed cornered in the corner. So will the dike break? Who knows? The bond market, treasury yields are still fairly low. We've come off the highs from about a couple weeks ago, above just 260, the 10-year yield. We're now at 250. The 3-month T-bill yield to the 7-year is inverted by about 3 basis points right now. So as I said, FOMC meeting, Fed meeting will be important for not only interest rates, but the market in general, I think. And I think later in the week, we'll probably get non-farm payroll, first Friday of the month, or the jobs data. Okay, War and Gold, interesting book. I haven't finished it. I'm still reading it, but I'm going through a chapter that's very interesting. It's called The Great Republic. It's about the U.S. and its experience with monetary affairs, with gold. And yeah, the U.S. government has no, they've been manipulating the price of gold or the gold market for many years, 150 years. Maybe they did manipulate it even before that, but Black Friday, that's where the term comes from. And I'll, nowadays they're still manipulating the price of gold. And they do it with the Treasury, with the central bank, with the BIS, with the bullion banks. They're all in it together. They run the United States. They run everything, really. And also in the UK, Bank of England, the major banks. The BIS, of course, is their instrument of where they can do this without any spotlight on them, because the BIS is a supranational institution. It's like a country. So I was listening to an interview of I forgot his first name. Is it James Powell, the guy from GATA, the guy that works with Bill Murphy at the Gold Antitrust Action Committee? He was interviewed by Greg Hunter. Mr. Powell was saying that, the manipulation is probably not only precious metals, but a lot of other things. He noted that the CME, which is the biggest futures exchange in the United States, and the CME, they bought COMEX, they bought the CBOT, they run all the futures exchanges now. They give central banks, not only, they give central banks around the world volume discount deals to trade in the futures, and they can trade anything. And Mr. Powell thinks that they're even probably manipulating other commodities, like the soft commodities, in order to keep a perception that there's no inflation out there. And of course we know that there is inflation. Cost of living is rising. I was reading about something that actually it was a video I was watching, Max Kaiser, and on RT he was talking about how ever since 2011 rents in Berlin have more than doubled, and that coincides with the with all the QE that the ECB has been doing. They've been buying rubbish, toxic assets from from the financial sector. They've been buying these assets that are worthless, like a penny to the euro, and they're giving these private equity groups, these hedge funds, 100 euros for them. And what these private equities and hedge funds are doing, they're buying up real assets like property and renting them out. There's been protests in Berlin about the increase in rentals. So there is inflation out there, right? And they're even more blatant, that why would central banks need to trade futures? I mean, that's ridiculous. So let's go to the book here. Let's have a look here then at the first Black Friday. So I'm going to read from Mr. Kwarteng's book, Kwasi Kwarteng, War and Gold. Is Mr. Kwarteng critical about the fact that, war has helped the state and gold has been a big part of this? No, he's not that critical, I don't think. He seems to think, a lot of times he talks about how wars have helped, develop the financial sector, but he doesn't look at the flip side of war. And he notes that during the Civil War, Wall Street had a boom. The national debt went from 65 million in the U.S. And after the war, it was at, I think, over 2 billion. So let's look at Black Friday. The key feature of the American currency system between 1865, the end of the Civil War, and 1879 was that there was no convertibility to gold. The country used the paper greenback since gold had been demonetized. In this environment, gold traded as a commodity like wheat or copper and had no special status as legal tender. Gold and Fisk. So Jay Gould and James Fisk, these are the guys that try to, ramp up the gold price. They were, I guess, the Hunt brothers of their day. Gould and Fisk attempted to buy up gold because many believed that the government would need gold in order to repurchase greenbacks. Gould started buying gold in the late summer of 1869. On Monday, 20th September, gold rose in price and continued to do so on the Tuesday and Wednesday. On Friday, the 24th of September, the government intervened, starting to sell a portion of its gold holdings. The price in a few days had gone from $130 an ounce to $162. It fell back to $135 on that Friday. After that intervention from the government, the day was said to have been black from the perspective of the speculative buyers of gold. The attempt to corner the market had failed, leaving buyers with heavy losses. So there you go. Nowadays it happens every day. Maybe not so directly from the government, but everything is done to keep gold and silver under control. Does that mean you should not have physical gold and silver? No, I think there is a point where governments need to allow gold to go to its natural price, because if they keep manipulating it too far down for too long, they will eventually lose a lot of physical metal. Yeah, that's why gold is where it is. If they were able to manipulate it and keep it at $35 an ounce, which was the pre-1971 level, they would have done it, but they can't. So we need to be patient, and it's the only thing we have really to keep maintain some kind of freedom from big government. Mr. Kwarteng talks about the fact that a lot of things like the Legal Tender Act, the National Banking Act, the Currency Act, they were all passed during the Civil War. So yeah, wars are an instrument of, how can I say, state control, state power, and that's why I always talk about not falling for the divide and conquer that they're trying to throw at us right now vis-a-vis China and Russia. We need to, different countries need to cooperate and not fight with each other. 150 years of intervention in the gold market. We are called, of course, conspiracy theorists for saying that gold and silver are manipulated. But it's been done, and it's been, how can I say, written about for many, many years. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, Make sure you also hit the little notification bell above to be notified of my videos. Please share this video far and wide if you think others would enjoy the content. You can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you a great start of the week. Take care. Bye.